Hello, everybody, and welcome to IGN at Gamescom Now. I'm Max Scoville, and I'm joined by my colleagues and close personal friends, Brian Altano,
Hey.
Tina Amini,
Hello.
and Lucy O'Brien.
Hey.
It's Gamescom.
It is.
It's just starting. It's just the very beginning, and it's going to get crazy out there. But this is kind of the day one. This is sort of the media day. But there's all sorts of stuff already happening right now. I learned something the other day. Gamescom has only been around for 10 years, and it's already the biggest gaming thing on Earth.
But it's also like physically the biggest gaming thing on Earth. Like you walk through E3 and you're like, wow, this is huge. But then you come to Gamescom and it's huge, like physically huge.
Yeah.
There's halls upon halls huge.
Mm-hmm.
This is the largest building I've ever been in.
Me too.
No, it's staggering, and I think it's something like last year, something like 370,000 people showed up.
Yep.
That's a lot of people. I actually found out they're doing a Gamescom in Asia next year. It's going to be in Singapore in October, which is kind of cool. I'm wondering if this is going to spread across the world, and we'll get one stateside. But yeah, last night, sort of things already got rolling. It wasn't really a press conference, but Geoff Keighley did opening night live, which was sort of this celebratory way of kicking off Gamescom, and showed a whole bunch of brand new trailers and gameplay.
It sort of felt like a slightly smaller version of the Game Awards, which is kind of cool to maybe start spinning out a few of those. I mean, we had the Game Awards a couple months ago, and it's nice to maybe expect more small Game Award-shaped things in the future, but that also aren't really award shows, but a vehicle for announcements and trailers and guests and all that fun stuff. So it was pretty jam-packed.
Yeah, and I also felt like it is very early days for this kind of a format, and I think we're just going to see it grow once people realize, again, it's only been 10 years that Gamescom has been around, once people realize how big it is and how it's just growing in popularity every year. So yeah, I think next year is going to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's not really a format we've seen for Gamescom before, so it's so good to have something to already sink our teeth into as far as tons of news and trailers that we can get excited about.
Now, obviously, we got a ton of huge trailers out of that. Let's see, there was Disintegration, which is it's from the creator of the original Halo, the inventor of the Master Chief, which looks like a brand new kind of sci-fi shooter thing. There's Need for Speed Heat, which is the latest in the long-running game about cars going fast, because they need the speed. The Kerbal Space Program 2 was a huge surprise. I know a lot of people, I think, were kind of surprised by that, but also really happy because that has a diehard fan base. And a brand new trailer for Gears of War 5. We have all of those things on the show over the next couple days, so we'll be talking to the developers about it, and that's all very exciting. But the big thing that came out of Keighley's thing last night was Death Stranding, which got sort of 2 cinematic-ish trailers and a bunch of gameplay.
The most gameplay we've seen so far.
I mean, it's so funny because I remember talking to you, Max, I think, before we got here, and we were like, this is it. This is the show that Death Stranding really needs to, step up and show the world exactly what it is.
Right.
And last night I was like, this is great. We got a lot of content, but I still don't know what it is.
I mean, we have a general understanding of what the story is. There's this other world that you can kind of touch into through Heartman.
Yeah, let's hear your
right?
interpretation.
Okay, so my interpretation is there are 2 worlds. There's this other side world where people are probably dead, and there are these maybe the BTs are living there, and that's how they're kind of connecting through to you.
It's a universe of shadow moms.
Yes, and babies.
Yeah.
And
Shadow moms.
other
Interesting.
things and people. Well,
Yep.
so Heartman, which was a character that
Keep going.
that we dove into
Say it
at
with a straight
Comic-Con.
face. Say it with a straight face.
Heartman that we dove into at Comic-Con, he dies, I think, every 21 minutes, and so basically he goes to the other side and he tries to find his family. So I'm guessing with Mama, who is the character we went into last night, in that trailer, will probably want to find her baby on the other side. Maybe they use Heartman as that connection. But ultimately, you're a delivery guy.
Yeah.
Named Sam, and urination is a mechanic.
I think that was the takeaway, wasn't it?
I don't know what so here's the Mama trailer right here. This is Margaret Qualley plays her, and the character had been revealed. This weird thing where we've seen these characters before. We haven't really heard them talking. The previous trailer we saw had Guillermo del Toro's physical presence, but voiced by someone else. And Dead Man, and he's like your babysitter, and she's got a ghost baby that she's releasing into the ether here.
She actually breastfeeds this baby.
Yeah.
What
so
Because
it
that's
makes
a
perfect sense.
connection.
It's amazing the more you find out about the game, the less you really clearly understand.
Well, all I know is that it has breastfeeding and urination, so...
Right.
I
As
mean,
What more could you want? It's just
2 massive takeaways from last night, guys.
yeah.
Yeah. So It's available for pre-order right now. No, this is
That's
like
the most concrete thing we know about it.
Exactly. It's so honestly, like, this is interesting and intriguing and fascinating to me. I love the idea that this is obviously something completely different than what we're used to seeing. Ultimately, this is a product that they must convince people to purchase, right? And you can do that based on the pedigree of the people behind it, by the celebrities in it, who some of them are scans of their full bodies with disembodied voices. Others are the actual real full package of a human. But ultimately, like, you will have to go into a store and spend $60 or $150 if you want the plastic baby when you get this game. And so I don't necessarily know if PlayStation has convinced people to do that yet.
No, and that's, again, like, I feel like this was kind of Sony's last attempt to really sell it to us.
There's also TGS.
Right.
There's
Which
also
Kojima did say there was plans for proper gameplay.
I think some people. I think he was kind of trolling people. I think this was kind of.
What?
That's
No.
his thing. That's his thing.
I had that thought when it opened up on Norman Reedus pissing on a field.
I mean, it's
and mushroom growing.
I need to emphasize is an actual gameplay mechanic because he said that there's this like synchronous world. That's basically the multiplayer component, right? It's a synchronous world where other players can also pee on that same mushroom.
Yes.
And if they
So
do that,
here it is.
Right. Look
No,
very closely at this.
Tina saw my note card coming into the segment, and it just said, "You can pee to make mushrooms." And I was like, "Yeah, we have weird jobs."
and then if your other players pee on said mushroom, it grows further, and I suppose turns into some kind of usable item that.
He said like something happens.
Yeah.
But as you can see here, if you try and see Norman Reedus's, I think it was described on our site as gentleman's agreement.
Oh. Wait, what is he
He will
agreeing
always
with?
turn the other way.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's very shy.
You cannot get a frontal shot in
But
Death Stranding.
so like this.
To be clear.
I know this seems like we're being silly, but like Kojima's games do have a long history of like kind of weird mechanics, but also a lot of kind of scatological stuff. The last game had tactical horse defecation, and you could make your horse go to the bathroom in the street, and you could crash a jeep. Like a bad guys would slip in the poop. Like that's a thing you can do. If you got too stinky, people would come and find you because you were making a bad smell. Like this is a game where it says like be considerate where you go to the bathroom. Otherwise, and I'm like, is Mads Mikkelsen going to send his skeleton army after me because I peed on his stuff? I don't know.
Surely the BTs detect you further.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. That's again, it's a really weird game, and it's kind of cool to finally see a stretch of it in action.
I'm actually going to steal a quote from our colleague Joe Scrabbles. I'm sorry, Joe, I'm claiming this as my own, but look, I'm giving you credit. There are a lot of good video games out there. There are a lot of really competent, awesome video games out there. I'm not entirely sure I necessarily want Death Stranding to be a conventional good video game. I'm happy for it to be a weird experiment that is just like completely bizarre, that is just a Kojima fever dream. I'm so happy with that. Like, I will be buying this day one.
I'm
so
okay with
far,
that
so
too.
good.
Yeah.
Also, it's got Geoff Keighley in it, which I don't think any of us were expecting, but it's also the least surprising part of this whole thing. That apparently, they scanned Geoff Keighley into the game, and he's in there. We did get a little bit of insight, and they talked about how this is a game about connecting East and West, and it looks like you're supposed to go across the country and kind of deliver stuff.
It's Sam's cross-country trip across the U.S., and he meets Geoff Keighley's character here, who they call a prepper, and I suppose he gives him some sort of package, and this is supposed to create the bonds between the cities somehow.
Yeah, he's like a hermit that lives in a van on a mountain, basically, and that's new. So that's a lot of stuff going on here, obviously. Plenty more to
A lot
unpack.
of new characters.
Honestly, I'm sort of irked by the confused and nonplussed feedback this has gotten, because it looks strange and weird and interesting, and I'm like dying to play this game because it's something new. It's something we haven't really seen before, whatever that means. And also a huge shout out to Geoff Keighley, because he sort of collaborated with us. He gave us a bunch of shout outs on his show, and we had our very own Sydney Goodman over there hosting some interviews as well. So
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was so much fun.
Now, moving on, another thing we saw yesterday, we'd sort of seen this before, but we got a proper release date for The Witcher 3 on Switch.
That's right.
Which, seeing it running on Switch is like, we saw the trailer, and I think the trailer's a little bit rough. It looks a little bit a little bit kind of grainy. We got a chance to actually go to the show floor and see it in action.
Yeah, we went hands-on with it today, and I will say straight up that like the trailers that we've seen so far haven't really done this game justice. When you're comparing it against obviously something running on a high-end PC, you're not going to get that on Switch. But the portable experience, scaled down on that small screen, totally works. Like I think if you've put like 100 hours in Breath of the Wild, this is your next big game of that size. You know, like if you were cool with playing Skyrim on Switch, or Breath of the Wild, or even like some of the Resident Evil games and stuff like that, this game looks really good in handheld mode. I think if you're going to play it on TV, well, you probably have better options, but you can't bring your PC on a plane.
Yeah,
well, you could, but you'd be annoying.
I was going to ask if you played it in both modes. Did you play it dock and
nope,
on dock?
just handheld.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it was actually an interesting story. I'm wearing a red wristband because at the Nintendo booth, this is one of the only games where you needed to be 18 and over to play. So we had to go prove that we're adults.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my ID, and I just told them I look old, and they gave me one. So, hooray.
Proof enough.
Yeah, and also they showed off a little bit from some of the later DLC. Showed a clip from Blood and Wine, which is cool. And I don't know. I feel like this is a great thing to hold people over until Cyberpunk next year.
Yeah, we also dug into the settings a little bit, and we're able to turn off stuff like motion blur and what was it, sharpness, anti-aliasing,
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. You'll have a few options to sort of tweak stuff around.
Yeah.
was there anything that was sort of like glaringly, oh, this has been really downscaled?
I actually read from our preview that John Ryan wrote for us that he said the level of detail as you were walking around, like the distance that you can see detail at, has been pretty severely scaled down, at least in his experience.
Interesting. Yeah, we tried
So,
to
like
do
textures
some
on the side of buildings, that kind of thing.
We tried to do some sort of like tests, like spinning the camera around while riding on the horse full speed. I'd say the game looks a little worse at night. The sort of skybox of the bloom lighting stuff happening in the background and everything is doing a lot of heavy lifting to make the world look prettier. But yeah, this is Witcher you can play anywhere. It kind of rules.
I'm very curious to see how it does like load time wise, and if you go into like one of the big cities with a ton of stuff going on, if it starts chugging or if it handles that well. But in any case, it's kind of a fun experiment. We're getting this weird point where, I mean, we were like getting last gen games on Switch, and this is a current gen game we're getting on Switch, which is like, okay.
What's next? Next gen games?
Yeah, that is all very impressive. We have, like I said, a bunch of really cool games coming on our show right here at IGN at Gamescom now. We got to take a quick break right now, but stick around because things are only just getting started. I'm very excited to check out some new games. See you in a bit.